The vast emptiness of space stretched endlessly before Captain Reed's salvage vessel, the Star Seeker. His antennae twitched with excitement as the ship's sensors picked up a large metallic object floating in the darkness. It was another routine day of searching for valuable space debris, but something about this reading seemed different. "Captain, you might want to see this," called out his sensor operator, First Officer Dale. "We've detected what appears to be an intact vessel of unknown origin." Reed moved swiftly to the main viewing screen, his four eyes widening at the sight before him. The ship was massive, easily 3 times the size of his salvage vessel. Its dark hull bore the scars of ancient battles, and despite the obvious age, its structure remained largely intact. "Magnify the image," Reed ordered, leaning forward with interest. The screen zoomed in on what appeared to be writing on the hull. Through layers of space dust, they could make out faded letters. U.S. Thunder. U.S. Dale scratched his scaled head. "Wait, isn't that a human designation?" Reed laughed, the sound echoing across the bridge. "A human vessel? Out here? This far from their territory?" He shook his head in amusement. "They've only been spaceworthy for, 3 centuries? This must be one of their early attempts at building warships." The bridge crew joined in his laughter. Humans were known throughout the galaxy as newcomers, barely having mastered faster-than-light travel. Their ships were considered primitive by most spacefaring races' standards. "Begin salvage operations," Reed commanded. "That hull alone must contain enough rare metals to make us rich. And who knows, maybe we'll find some amusing human artifacts to sell to collectors." The Star Seeker moved closer to the derelict vessel, its tractor beams reaching out to stabilize the massive ship. Up close, the Thunder was even more impressive. Despite its age, there was something majestic about its design. The hull was angular and purposeful, with what appeared to be weapon ports running along its length. "Sir," called out the engineer, Tix, from his station. "I'm picking up some unusual readings from within the ship. There might be residual power sources still active." Reed dismissed the concern with a wave of his hand. "Impossible. No human power source from that era could still be functioning. It's probably just background radiation playing tricks with our sensors." He turned to his salvage team. "Prep for boarding. Standard procedure for derelict vessels." As the boarding team suited up, Dale approached his captain with a datapad. "Sir, I've been checking our database. There's no record of a human vessel called Thunder in any of the known registries." "Not surprising," Reed replied, examining the boarding team's progress. "It's probably so old it predates most of our records of human space activity. Look at those primitive weapon mounts. They probably still used chemical propellants." The first salvage team cut their way through an airlock, the aged metal giving way easily to their advanced tools. As they entered the ship, their helmet lights illuminated corridors that had been dark for centuries. "Captain, we're inside," reported the team leader. "The ship's internal structure is surprisingly well preserved, almost like it was meant to last this long." "Just get to engineering and disable any remaining systems," Reed ordered. "We don't want any accidents while we're stripping this relic." As the salvage teams spread throughout the vessel, none of them noticed the subtle changes taking place deep within the ship. In a heavily shielded compartment, ancient systems began to stir. Status lights that hadn't flickered in centuries slowly began to glow, and deep within the ship's core, something ancient and powerful started to wake up. The aliens continued their work, laughing and joking about the primitive human vessel they'd found. They had no way of knowing that their laughter would soon turn to terror, as the Thunder was far more than just an ancient relic. It was a sleeping giant about to roar back to life. Marcus stood at the viewport of the diplomatic vessel Peace Bridge, his weathered face reflecting concern as he watched the alien salvage operation in progress. As the human engineering expert assigned to this sector, he had seen many things in his 30 years of service, but the sight before him made his blood run cold. "Captain Reed," he transmitted to the alien salvage vessel. "This is Marcus Thompson from the Earth Diplomatic Corps. You need to stop your salvage operation immediately." The alien captain's laughter crackled over the comm system. And why should we do that, human? This is unclaimed space, and we found this lovely piece of junk fair and square. Marcus took a deep breath, trying to stay calm. That's not junk, Captain. That's the U.S. Thunder. She's one of ours, and she's extremely dangerous. Dangerous. Reed's voice dripped with mockery. This relic. My scans show it's at least 200 years old. We know your people barely had fusion drives back then. On the Peace Bridge's main screen, Marcus watched as more alien crew members attached cutting tools to the Thunder's hull. They were making a terrible mistake, but they were too arrogant to listen. Look, Marcus tried again. There's a reason that ship is out here. It's not abandoned. It's waiting. This caught Reed's attention. Waiting? For what? It's a sleeping giant, Marcus explained, knowing how unlikely his story would sound. One of 50 warships we scattered across space during our early expansion. They're our insurance policy. The alien crew's laughter echoed through the communication channel. Insurance policy. Against what? Bad fashion choices. More laughter. Your species was still fighting with projectile weapons when this ship was built. Marcus turned to his own captain, Tom Wilson, who nodded grimly. They both knew what was about to happen. The Peace Bridge's sensors were already detecting power fluctuations from deep within the Thunder's hull. Captain Reed, I'm sending you historical footage of what happened to the last salvage crew that ignored our warnings about a sleeping giant. Marcus transmitted the file, hoping visual evidence might convince them. The alien captain didn't even bother to open it. Listen, human, I appreciate your concern for your ancestors' museum piece, but we've already got teams inside. They report nothing but outdated technology and empty corridors. Your scary stories won't change that. Marcus watched the sensor readings with growing anxiety. The power signatures were getting stronger. Those empty corridors are a design feature, Captain. The Thunder's real systems are hidden behind false walls and dummy panels. What you're seeing isn't what you're getting. Enough. Reed snapped. We've been salvaging ships since before your people learned to split atoms. Don't try to teach us our job. Marcus sent an urgent message to Earth Command, reporting the situation. The response was immediate. Hold position. Observation only. Let the protocols handle it. Captain Reed. Marcus made one final attempt. At least get your boarding teams out. What you think is a simple derelict is actually one of the most advanced weapons platforms ever created by humanity. We made it look primitive on purpose. Advanced weapons platform. Reed's voice was heavy with sarcasm. Your people think projectile weapons and chemical rockets are advanced. We're doing you a favor, recycling this piece of history. The sensor operator on the Peace Bridge suddenly called out, Sir. Energy readings from the Thunder are spiking. Marcus closed his eyes for a moment. It's starting, he said quietly. Captain Reed, this is your final warning. The Thunder is waking up. Get your people out now, or... The alien captain cut the transmission. On the screen, Marcus could see more salvage teams cutting their way into the ancient warship. They still thought they were dealing with primitive human technology, still believed they were stripping a harmless relic. They were about to learn just how wrong they were. The Thunder systems were awakening, and soon these arrogant aliens would discover why humanity's sleeping giants were feared throughout known space. The show was about to begin, and Marcus had a front-row seat. Deep within the U.S. Thunder, behind layers of seemingly primitive metal and outdated technology, something stirred. The alien salvage team had just cut through what they thought was a simple power conduit. They were wrong. It was a security trigger, and they had just activated it. Team 3 reporting. The alien technician reported to Captain Reed. We've reached what appears to be the main engineering section. These humans really were primitive. There's not even a proper quantum core in here. What the technician didn't realize was that he was standing in a dummy engineering room. The real heart of the Thunder lay hidden behind carefully designed false panels, waiting for the right moment to reveal itself. The first sign that something was wrong came when the emergency lights suddenly activated. Not the dim, ancient lighting the aliens expected, but bright, crisp illumination that made the corridors glow with an almost alive quality. "That's odd," one of the salvage team members said, looking around. "Where's this power coming from?" A deep hum began to resonate through the ship's hull. At first, it was barely noticeable, but it grew steadily stronger. The alien crew members looked at each other nervously as their cutting tools suddenly powered down. "Control, we're having some equipment issues," the team leader reported. "All our tools just stopped working." Captain Reed's voice crackled over the comm. "Probably just interference from the old power systems. Switch to backup units and continue." He never finished the sentence. Throughout the thunder, hidden panels began sliding open. Walls that had appeared solid revealed themselves to be sophisticated security barriers. The dummy engineering room's far wall simply disappeared, revealing a vast chamber filled with technology that made the alien crew freeze in shock. "Impossible," whispered the team leader. This can't be human technology." A voice echoed through the ship's corridors, speaking in perfect universal standard. "U.S. Thunder Artificial Intelligence Core online. Security protocols activated. Hostile boarding action detected." On the bridge of his salvage vessel, Captain Reed watched in disbelief as his sensors suddenly came alive with readings. The dead ship was now showing power levels that shouldn't have been possible for technology twice their own advancement level. "Get out," he shouted to his boarding teams. "Everyone, get back to the ship now." But it was too late. Throughout the thunder, security fields snapped into place. The alien crew members found themselves trapped in corridors that had seemed primitive moments ago, but now hummed with advanced containment technology. "Unknown vessels detected within secure zones," the Thunder's AI announced, implementing containment protocols. "Warning: any attempt to breach containment will be met with appropriate force." The alien technicians watched in horror as their supposedly advanced cutting tools were systematically disabled by the ship's defense systems. Devices they had mocked as primitive transformed before their eyes, revealing sophisticated technology hidden beneath false covers. "Captain," one of the team leaders called out, panic in his voice. "We're trapped. The corridors, they're not what we thought they were. Nothing is what we thought it was." From his observation point on the Peace Bridge, Marcus watched as the thunder came fully awake. The ship's outer hull, which had appeared scared and ancient, began to ripple as nano-repair systems activated. Layers of accumulated space dust simply fell away, revealing armor plating that put modern battleships to shame. "Too late to warn them now," he muttered, shaking his head. "The giants awake." The thunder's transformation continued. Weapon ports that had seemed rusted shut smoothly opened, revealing artillery systems that were centuries ahead of their time. The entire vessel hummed with power as systems that had slept for centuries roared back to life. Inside the ship, the alien salvage teams could only watch in growing terror as the primitive vessel revealed its true nature. They had come expecting to find a relic of humanity's past. Instead, they had awakened something that would redefine their understanding of human technological capabilities. The sleeping giant was no longer sleeping, and it was about to show these aliens exactly why humanity had become a force to be reckoned with in the galaxy. Captain Reed's hands flew across his control panel as alarms blared throughout the Starseeker. His ship's sensors were showing power readings from the thunder that shouldn't have been possible. Weapon systems that had appeared dead were now radiating enough energy to rival a small star. "Get us out of here," he shouted to his pilot. "Full power to engines." The Starseeker's engines flared to life, but the ship didn't move. An invisible force held them firmly in place, like a bug caught in amber. Reed's 4 eyes widened in horror as he realized what was happening. "Secondary systems online," the Thunder's AI announced, its voice now broadcasting on all frequencies. "Tractor beam engage. Warning: unauthorized salvage operation detected. Implementing standard response protocols." Inside the Thunder, the trapped alien salvage teams watched as the corridors around them transformed. Walls that had seemed solid became transparent, revealing layers of advanced technology behind them. Security drones emerged from hidden compartments, their designs unlike anything the aliens had ever seen. "This is impossible," one of the team leaders muttered, backing away from an approaching drone. "These humans, they shouldn't have this kind of technology. They're centuries behind us." The drone stopped in front of him, its sensors scanning the alien crew. "Attention unauthorized personnel," it announced. "You are now under the protection of U.S. Thunder security protocols. Please remain calm and cooperate. Resistance is inadvisable." On the Starseeker's bridge, Reed watched helplessly as his ship's systems began shutting down one by one. Their most advanced countermeasures were being swatted aside like children's toys. "Sir," his security chief called out, panic in his voice. "They're not just disabling our systems, they're reading them. Somehow they're accessing our database, copying everything." The Thunder's eye spoke again, its tone somehow managing to convey both politeness and threat. "Your vessel has been identified as a Class 3 salvage ship operating without proper authorization. Your database has been archived for reference. Please be advised that any attempt to resist will result in additional security measures." Marcus watched from the Peace Bridge as the Thunder demonstrated just a fraction of its capabilities. The ancient warship now gleamed in the starlight, its hull fully restored by nano-repair systems that had slept for centuries. Weapon ports along its length pulsed with barely contained energy. "They really should have listened," he said to his captain. "The Thunder is one of our oldest sleeping giants. It has more combat experience than most modern fleets." As if to prove his point, the Thunder began systematically neutralizing every weapon and defense system on the Starseeker. It didn't fire a single shot. It didn't need to. Instead, it simply reached out with invisible tendrils of energy and took control. "Please note," the AI continued, "that your ship's quantum core has been temporarily suspended to prevent unauthorized departure. Life support systems remain operational as a courtesy." Reed slumped in his captain's chair, watching as his mighty salvage vessel was reduced to a powerless hulk by a ship he had dismissed as primitive junk. On his main screen, he could see his boarding teams being efficiently rounded up by security drones, their advanced tools now useless in their hands. "Captain," his first officer said quietly, "what do we do now?" Before Reed could answer, new contacts appeared on their few remaining functional sensors. 3 sleek vessels had just dropped out of faster-than-light travel nearby. Their design was clearly human, but unlike anything the aliens had seen before. "This is Commander Roberts of the Earth Defense Fleet," a new voice announced. "We're here to assist in resolving this misunderstanding. Captain Reed, I trust the Thunder has made its point about the dangers of underestimating human technology." Reed could only stare at his dead control panels as the true extent of his mistake became clear. They had thought they were salvaging an ancient relic. Instead, they had awakened one of humanity's most powerful guardians, and now they would face the consequences. Commander Roberts' ship, the Guardian, took up position alongside the Thunder. In the Guardian's conference room, Captain Reed and his senior officers sat across from Marcus and the human delegation. The alien captain's earlier arrogance had vanished, replaced by a mixture of fear and curiosity. Now that everyone's calmed down, Marcus began, spreading his hands on the table. "Let me explain what you actually stumbled into." He pressed a button, and a holographic display appeared above the table, showing dozens of ships similar to the Thunder scattered across the galaxy. "The Sleeping Giants program," he continued, "was humanity's response to a simple problem. When we first reached the stars, we were far behind most spacefaring races in terms of visible technology. We needed a way to protect ourselves without revealing our true capabilities." The hologram zoomed in on the Thunder schematics, showing layers of technology hidden beneath its seemingly primitive exterior. Reed's antenna twitched as he recognized systems that shouldn't have existed in human ships of that era. "But that's impossible," Reed's engineer protested. "These systems, they're centuries ahead of where your species should be. The power requirements alone." are handled by our quantum fold generators, Marcus finished for him. Yes, we've had those for quite a while. We just didn't tell anyone. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Reed looked at the humans with new eyes, suddenly understanding why certain species were very careful not to provoke Earth. The Thunder and ships like her, Marcus continued, were designed to look primitive on purpose. We scattered them across space, appearing to abandon them due to technological limitations. In reality, each one is a fully automated defense platform capable of protecting human interests in its sector. The hologram showed footage from previous encounters. Alien ships, far more advanced than Reed's salvage vessel, being systematically disabled by vessels they had dismissed as relics. The genius of the program, Commander Roberts added, is that it plays into everyone's assumptions about humanity. You see an old ship, you think it's primitive, and you never look deeper. The perfect camouflage. But why? Reed asked, his voice barely a whisper. Why hide your true capabilities? Marcus smiled. Because, Captain, the best defense is the one your potential enemies don't know about. Every race that finds a sleeping giant learns the same lesson you just did. Don't underestimate humanity. The hologram shifted again, showing the Thunder's true specifications. Reed's technical officer nearly fell out of his chair when he saw the weapon yields and defensive capabilities. What you thought was a primitive hull is actually a shell of smart metal infused with billions of nanites, Marcus explained. Those rusty weapon ports contain plasma cannons that could slice through a modern battleship. The outdated computer systems are quantum AI cores that can outthink any tactical computer in known space. And there are 50 of these, giants. Reed asked nervously. That we've told you about, Commander Roberts said with a slight smile. Consider this a diplomatic revelation, one that comes with a warning. The next time you find a human relic in space, leave it alone. Marcus stood up, walking to the window where they could see the Thunder floating majestically in space, its hull now gleaming with restored power. Your species, Captain Reed, judges advancement by what they can see. Humanity learned long ago that true power lies in what you keep hidden. The alien captain stared at the ancient warship, finally understanding the true meaning of the term sleeping giant. His people had laughed at humanity's primitive technology, never suspecting that humans had merely chosen to hide their advances behind a facade of simplicity. One last thing, Marcus added, turning back to the aliens. The Thunder didn't just disable your ship, it gathered data. Right now, its AI is analyzing your technology, learning your capabilities, updating its systems. That's what all our giants do. Every attempt to salvage them makes them stronger. Reed's face paled as he realized the full implications. These humans hadn't just outwitted them. They had turned their own arrogance into a weapon, using every dismissive encounter to gather intelligence and improve their defenses. The sleeping giant was awake, and its message was clear. Humanity was far more dangerous than anyone had suspected. The peace talks were suddenly interrupted by urgent alarms blaring throughout the Guardian. Commander Roberts rushed to the nearest communication panel as reports flooded in. Sir, his tactical officer's voice was tense. 3 warships just dropped out of hyperspace. They're broadcasting Salvage Guild identification codes. They're claiming we've illegally seized their vessel. Captain Reed's face paled. That would be our backup. I sent a distress signal before the Thunder disabled our communications. Marcus and Commander Roberts exchanged knowing looks. This was about to become a practical demonstration of what they had just been explaining. 3 massive warships, each 5 times the size of the Thunder, took up attack positions. Their hulls bristled with weapons that represented the height of modern alien technology. Their commander's face appeared on the main screen, his expression confident and dismissive. This is Guild Commander Vex of the Salvage Authority. Release the Star Seeker immediately, or we will take it by force. Your obsolete vessels are no match for modern Guild warships. Marcus stepped forward, a slight smile on his face. They never learn, do they? He turned to Reed. "Captain, I suggest you tell your colleagues to stand down. What's about to happen? Well, you might want to warn them." Reed grabbed a communications unit. "Guild Command, this is Captain Reed. Break off your attack. That human ship isn't what you think it is. It's asleep." The Guild commander cut the transmission. The three warships began powering up their weapon systems, their energy readings climbing to devastating levels. "Thunder," Marcus said calmly, "execute Defense Protocol 3. What happened next would be talked about in Guild circles for decades to come. The Thunder, which had appeared dormant, suddenly came alive with a display of power that defied comprehension. A sphere of shimmering energy expanded from its hull, encompassing both the Guardian and the Star Seeker in its protective field. The Guild ships opened fire, their most powerful weapons unleashing streams of destructive energy. The attacks splashed harmlessly against the Thunder's shield, their energy being absorbed and redirected into the ancient warship's systems. Warning: the Thunder's AI broadcast on all frequencies. Hostile action detected. Implementing appropriate response. The Thunder's weapon ports opened, revealing arrays of technology that made the alien engineers' jaws drop. Beams of concentrated energy, far more refined than anything the Guild possessed, lanced out with surgical precision. Each shot targeted a specific system on the Guild ships, systematically disabling their weapons, shields, and engines without causing any casualties. "Impossible," the Guild commander's voice crackled over the comm. "Our shields are the most advanced in known space. How can this relic?" His transmission cut off as the Thunder's energy field expanded, enveloping all three Guild warships. Their engines died, their weapons went dark, and their mighty shields collapsed under the influence of technology centuries ahead of their time. "Your vessels have been contained," the Thunder's AI announced. "All offensive capabilities have been neutralized. Please stand by for boarding and detention." Marcus turned to Reed, whose antennae were trembling in shock. "Now you understand why we let people think we're primitive. Why we hide our true capabilities behind a facade of simplicity. It's not just about defense. It's about learning." On the main screen, they watched as the Thunder's drones systematically began accessing and copying the Guild ship's databases, adding their technological knowledge to its vast repository of information. "Every time someone attacks a sleeping giant," Commander Roberts explained, "they give us the gift of their technology. We learn, we adapt, we improve. Your Guild ships there. Their defenses were state-of-the-art, but the Thunder has already analyzed them, found their weaknesses, and developed countermeasures." Hours later, as human diplomatic ships arrived to handle the formal proceedings, Captain Reed stood with Marcus in the Guardian's observation deck, watching as the Guild ships were escorted away by human vessels that had dropped their primitive disguises, revealing technology that would reshape his understanding of humanity's place in the galaxy. "There will be questions," Reed said quietly. "The Guild Council will want to know how you achieved this level of technology without anyone noticing." Marcus nodded. "And we'll tell them the truth, or at least the part of it we want them to know. That humanity learned early on that appearing weak while being strong was better than appearing strong while being weak." The Thunder floated majestically in space, its hull now gleaming with power, all pretense of being a derelict relic abandoned. It had served its purpose, teaching another group of aliens the folly of underestimating humanity. "The report I'll file," Reed continued. "It will change things. Other species will look at human ships differently now." "That's exactly what we wanted," Marcus replied. "The Sleeping Giants program was never meant to be secret forever. Each revelation, each demonstration, serves to remind the galaxy that humanity is not to be trifled with. Today's events will spread, and the next time someone finds a primitive human vessel, they'll think twice before trying to salvage it." As if to emphasize his point, the Thunder's engines came to life, their glow unlike anything in known space. The ancient warship began to move, preparing to return to its patrol route, where it would once again appear as a derelict, waiting for the next group of overconfident salvagers. "Remember this day, Captain Reed," Marcus said as they watched the thunder fade into the darkness of space. "Remember that humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology or our weapons. It's our patience, our ability to play the long game. We let you underestimate us because every time you did, we grew stronger." The story of the thunder spread quickly through alien space. The tale of how a supposedly primitive human warship had effortlessly disabled 4 modern vessels became a warning, whispered in spacecraft corridors and taught in alien academies. The galaxy began to look at human technology with new eyes, wondering how many more secrets the supposedly primitive newcomers were hiding among the stars. And out in the vast emptiness of space, 49 other sleeping giants continued their eternal vigil, each waiting for their moment to teach the galaxy the same lesson. Never judge a species by their apparent level of technology, for appearances can be deceiving, and some giants only pretend to sleep. As for the thunder, it returned to its designated sector, once again appearing as nothing more than an abandoned relic. Its hull gradually accumulated space dust, its weapons ports appeared to rust, and its systems seemed to go dark. But deep inside, its quantum eye processed the wealth of new data it had gathered, preparing for the next encounter, ready to remind the galaxy once again why humanity's sleeping giants were a force to be respected and feared. The end.